You're never ready for the moment your sister turns into a stranger. Lila Bennett, 23, hovers in the kitchen of a weathered Seattle apartment, her hands gripping a chipped ceramic mug, the steam curling like a faint promise. The room smells of burnt toast and stale arguments, its faded yellow walls scarred with years of tension. A radio hums softly, some old rock song that feels out of place in the heavy air. Lila's dark hair falls over her eyes as she stares at the linoleum floor, trying to disappear. Her older sister, Cassie Bennett, 25, bursts through the doorway, her presence a sudden storm. "Who moved my bag?" Cassie snaps, her voice a whip, her blonde ponytail swinging as she glares at Lila. "I didn't touch it," Lila mumbles, barely audible, her fingers tightening around the mug. She just wanted coffee, a small anchor in the chaos of this home. But Cassie's eyes narrow, unyielding. The fight flares fast, a spark hitting dry tinder. Cassie accuses Lila of rummaging through her things, her designer bag a gift from Ellen, their mother supposedly tampered with. "You're always snooping," Cassie says, stepping closer, her manicured nails digging into her palms. Lila shakes her head, her voice trembling. I didn't even see it. Cassie, I swear, but words are useless here." The kitchen shrinks, the flickering overhead light casting harsh shadows. Cassie's face twists, and she shoves Lila hard against the counter. The edge bites into Lila's hip, a sharp jolt of pain that steals her breath. The mug tumbles, cracking on the floor, coffee splattering like a broken vow. Lila clutches the counter, her knees wobbling, a dull ache spreading through her side. "Stop it," she gasps. But Cassie just laughs, low and cruel, as if Lila's hurt is a punchline. From the living room, Ellen's voice drifts in, flat. "Unbothered, Lila, quit making a scene." No footsteps follow, no rush to check on her daughter, just the creak of the couch and the drone of a game show, laughter canned and hollow. Lila's eyes sting as she glances toward the doorway, hoping for something, anything, but Ellen stays glued to her screen, dismissing the chaos with a wave of her hand. "She's just upset." Ellen calls, as if Lila's the one who started this. "Don't be such a baby." The words land like a slap, and Lila's chest tightens, not just from the pain in her hip, but from the weight of being unseen. Cassie smirks, brushing past Lila to grab a soda from the fridge, her victory casual, complete. Lila sinks against the counter, the spilled coffee pooling at her feet. This isn't new. Cassie's always been the sun in this family, bright and untouchable, while Lila's the shadow, expected to fade. Ellen cheers Cassie's every step, even her failures, while Ron, their father, buries himself in silence. The apartment, with its creaking floors and mismatched furniture, is a stage where Lila's role is to endure. At 23, she's a barista scraping by. Her art dreams shelved, her confidence chipped away by years of Cassie's cruelty and Ellen's neglect. But as she stares at the broken mug, something shifts, a quiet anger, not loud or reckless, but deep, like a current beneath still water. She's not ready to fight, not yet. But the girl who's been invisible is starting to see herself. This is where the story begins, in the wreckage of a kitchen, where pain becomes a spark. The kitchen floor is still tacky with spilled coffee. The broken mug, a jagged reminder of Cassie's rage. Lila Bennett limps to the cramped bathroom of their Seattle apartment, her hip throbbing where the counter bit into her. She locks the door, her breath shallow, and lifts her sweater. A bruise is already forming, a splotch of purple and red, tender under her fingertips. She stares at it in the chipped mirror, her reflection pale, eyes hollow with something heavier than pain-shame. For staying in this place. For letting it happen again. The hum of the living room TV seeps through the walls. Ellen's laughter mixing with a sitcom's canned applause. Lila grips the sink, her knuckles white. This isn't just a bruise. It's a map of everything she's let Cassie take. Dinner is a tightrope. Lila sits at the wobbly dining table, pushing peas around her plate, her stomach knotted. Cassie lounges across from her, scrolling her phone, her blonde hair catching the light like she's the center of the universe. Ellen, at the head of the table, gushes about Cassie's latest plan, a job application to a sleek Seattle tech startup. "They're gonna snap her up," Ellen says, her voice syrupy, ignoring the tension curling in the air. Ron, their father, chews his meatloaf in silence, his eyes fixed on a crack in the table. Lila's fork trembles as she speaks, her voice low. "My bank account. There's a problem." Ellen's smile freezes. "Not now, Lila," she says, waving a hand. "We're talking about Cassie's future." Cassie smirks, not looking up. "What, you blow your tips on paint again?" The jab stings, and Lila's cheeks burn, but she swallows her retort. Speaking up never works here. Later, in her closet-sized bedroom, Lila hunches over her laptop. The screen's glow harsh against the peeling wallpaper. A bank alert glares back, a $400 charge she didn't make, linked to a credit card she never opened. Her heart sinks as she traces the trail Cassie's email tied to the account. A string of purchases for clothes, concert tickets, things Lila could never afford. It's not the first time. Last year, Cassie borrowed $150 for groceries, only to show up in new boots. When Lila complained, Ellen shrugged. "She'll pay you back," she said, but the money never came. Now, Lila sees the pattern. Cassie doesn't just take her money. She's been siphoning her life, bit by bit, leaving Lila with a $4,000 debt that's choking her dreams. Lila's mind replays older wounds. At 17, Cassie spread rumors that Lila lied about her art portfolio, costing her a summer program. At 19, Cassie flirted with Jake, Lila's boyfriend, whispering lies until he ghosted her. Each time, Ellen took Cassie's side. "She's just spirited," Ellen would say, as if Lila's pain was collateral damage. Ron never spoke up. His silence, a wall Lila couldn't climb. The apartment feels smaller now, its creaking floors and flickering lights closing in. Lila's barista job at Pike Place barely covers her share of the rent, and every dollar she earns seems to vanish into Ellen's family fund or Cassie's whims. She pulls a sketchbook from under her bed, flipping to a drawing of a cracked vase. Its pieces sharp, unyielding. Her pencil hovers, but she doesn't draw. Instead, she grabs her phone, scrolling through Cassie's Instagram posts of her posing at rooftop bars, captioned with fake hustle quotes. The lie of it all makes Lila's chest ache, not with sadness, but with something new, a slow burning fury. She thinks of confronting Cassie, of slamming the bank statements on the table, but she knows Ellen would twist it, make Lila the villain. Still, the fury grows, like a seed-splitting stone. Lila tucks the sketchbook away, her jaw tight. She's not ready to act, but she's done bending. The vase in her drawing isn't broken. It's waiting to cut. Morning light filters through the grimy blinds of Lila Bennett's Seattle apartment, painting her tiny bedroom in shades of gray. She lies on her lumpy mattress, the ache in her hip a steady pulse, a souvenir from Cassie's shove in the kitchen. Sleep was a tangle of nightmares, Cassie's sneer, Ellen's dismissive wave, the weight of a $4,000 debt that isn't hers. Lila stares at the ceiling, a water stain spreading like doubt. She's 23, but feels older, worn down by years of being the family's afterthought. The apartment hums with familiar sounds: Ellen's morning talk show, the clink of Cassie's spoon in a cereal bowl. Life goes on for them. But Lila's stuck, drowning in a truth she can't yet voice. She pulls herself up, wincing, and shuffles to the bathroom. The mirror shows a girl she barely knows, dark circles under her eyes, her hair a messy knot. She tugs her sweater down to cover the bruise, its edges now yellowing, a faint map of betrayal. At the coffee shop in Pike Place Market, Lila steams milk and forces smiles for impatient customers, her hip protesting with every move. Her boss, a gruff woman named Rosa, notices her limp. "You okay, kid?" she asks. Her brow creased. Lila nods, her throat tight. "Just sore," she says, the lie bitter on her tongue. She can't say the truth that her sister's hands left marks, that her mother called it nothing. The words feel too heavy, too real. By afternoon, Lila slips away to a free clinic near the waterfront, its waiting room crowded with tired faces. The doctor, a man with wire-rimmed glasses, presses gently on her hip, his frown deepening. "This looks like more than a fall," he says, his voice low. Lila stares at the floor, her cheeks burning. "I tripped," she mumbles, clutching the pamphlet he hands her, Resources for Domestic Violence. The word violence sticks in her chest, sharp and foreign. She stuffs the pamphlet into her bag, her hands shaking, and pays with crumpled bills from her tips, her bank account already bleeding from Cassie's theft. Back at the apartment, dinner is another performance. Ellen chatters about Cassie's tech job application, her voice bright, oblivious. "She's gonna shine," Ellen says, passing the potatoes. Cassie, scrolling her phone, smirks. "They're lucky to even get my resume." Lila picks at her food, her appetite gone. She wants to scream about the debt, the bruise, the years of being erased. Instead, she stays quiet, her fork scraping the plate. Ron, as always, is a shadow, his eyes on his beer, offering nothing. When Lila clears the table, Cassie brushes past her, whispering, "Stay out of my way, loser." The words sting, but Lila's anger simmers beneath, a quiet heat she's starting to recognize, alone in her room. Lila pulls out her phone, her fingers hovering over the bank app. The numbers haven't changed. $4,000 in debt, all Cassie's doing. She scrolls through old texts from Aunt Clara, the only family member who ever checked on her. "You deserve better," Clara wrote last month. Lila's eyes sting, but she doesn't cry. Instead, she opens her sketchbook, flipping past drawings of cracked vases and stormy skies. She starts a new sketch. A figure curled tight, but with roots breaking through stone, reaching for light. It's not hope, not yet, but it's something close. Lila tucks the sketchbook away and grabs a small notebook from her desk. She jots down what she knows: the debt, the bruise, Cassie's lies about her resume. It's not a plan, but it's a start. She thinks of the clinic's pamphlet, still unread, and Clara's words, echoing like a lifeline. The apartment creaks around her, a reminder of the life she's trapped in. But as she closes the notebook, her jaw tightens. She's still the girl who limps, who lies to protect her family's secrets. But she's also the girl who's counting the cuts. And that girl is waking up, one painful step at a time. The Seattle rain drums against Lila Bennett's bedroom window, a steady beat that matches the pulse of her resolve. She sits at her desk, the dim light of a desk lamp illuminating her notebook, its pages filled with jagged notes, bank charges, Cassie's lies, the bruise on her hip now fading to a sickly green. The apartment is quiet. Ellen's TV off for once. Cassie out somewhere, probably flaunting her fake confidence at a bar. Lila's sketchbook lies open, a drawing of roots cracking stones staring back at her, urging her forward. She's 23, still limping from her sister's violence. But the fear that once paralyzed her is shifting, hardening into something sharp. She's not ready to win, but she's done losing. Lila's phone buzzes with a text from Aunt Clara. Check your mail. Found something from Grandma. Curiosity pulls her to the apartment's mailbox, where a yellowed envelope waits, addressed to her in her grandmother's spidery handwriting. Inside is a letter, dated years ago, mentioning a savings account set up for Lila, meant to keep you safe. Ellen always said Grandma left nothing. But here's proof, a bank name, an account number, and a note. Don't let them take your future. Lila's breath catches. It's not the apartment, not yet, but it's a spark, a piece of power she didn't know she had. She tucks the letter away, her mind racing. Cassie's been stealing more than money, she's been stealing Lila's chances. At the coffee shop, Lila overhears Cassie on the phone, bragging about her upcoming tech job interview. I've got them fooled, Cassie says, laughing, her voice carrying over the hiss of the espresso machine. Lila's stomach twists, but she listens, catching details: a startup downtown, a resume padded with fake internships, a reference from a professor Cassie once trashed online. Back home, Lila digs through Cassie's public Instagram, her fingers trembling as she screenshots posts Cassie posing at work events that were just parties, captions boasting about projects she never touched. She finds a tweet from 2 years ago. Cassie calling her professor a washed-up nobody. It's a thread of lies, and Lila's weaving it into a net. She starts small, testing her courage. On her laptop, she logs into her bank, confirming the $4,000 debt tied to Cassie's fraud. She emails a free legal aid clinic, her words halting but clear. My sister opened a credit card in my name. I need help. A lawyer, Emily Chen, responds within hours, offering a Zoom call. Emily's voice is crisp, no nonsense. This is identity theft, she says, outlining steps to freeze the account and file a fraud claim. Lila sends her the bank statements, the unauthorized charges, and, after a moment's hesitation, a photo of her bruise. It's not just money. Lila types, her chest tight. She hurt me. Emily promises to build a case, and Lila feels a flicker of strength. Like a muscle she's just learning to flex. Lila's next move is bolder. She crafts an anonymous email to the tech startup's HR, her fingers steady, despite the thud of her heart. Cassie Bennett is not who she seems. She writes, attaching the screenshots, the tweet, and a clipped audio file from her phone, Cassie laughing about faking it for the job. She hesitates, the cursor blinking like a challenge, then adds, she's hurt people to get ahead. Check her references. She hits send, her breath sharp, the act both terrifying and electric. It's not revenge, not yet, it's truth, weaponized. Back in her room, Lila opens her grandmother's letter again, tracing the words. She calls the bank, listed, her voice shaky but firm, and learns the account exists $2,000 untouched, waiting for her. It's not enough to fix everything, but it's enough to start. She sketches a new drawing, a figure with roots now sprouting wings, not of feathers, but of flame. The image is her promise Cassie's lies will burn, and Lila will rise from the ashes. She closes her sketchbook, the rain outside a steady hymn. The letter, the email, the lawyer their steps, small but deliberate, toward a fight she's only beginning to understand. For the first time, Lila feels the edges of her own power. And it's enough to keep her moving. The Seattle sky churns with dark clouds, a storm brewing outside as the air inside Lila Bennett's apartment crackles with fury. Lila stands in the narrow hallway, her heart hammering. Her hips still tender from Cassie's shove days ago. The front door slams open, and Cassie storms in, her face a mask of rage, her designer bag swinging like a weapon. "Someone screwed me over," she screams, her voice raw, shattering the apartment's fragile quiet. She hurls her bag against the wall, a lipstick rolling across the hardwood. Ellen rushes from the kitchen, her apron askew, eyes wide. "Cassie, what's wrong?" she pleads, her hands wringing. Lila stays rooted, her breath tight, her fingers brushing the phone in her pocket. The email she sent to the tech startup screenshots of Cassie's lies. Her own bruise. Her truth has hit its mark, and the fallout is here. Cassie paces, her heels stabbing the floor, her words spilling like venom. The interview was a joke. She snarls. "They had my tweets, my resume, everything. They called me a fraud." Her eyes flash, wild, searching for someone to blame. Ellen gasps, clutching the counter. "Who would do that to you?" "Sweetheart," she says, her voice trembling, as if Cassie's the one who's been wronged. Lila leans against the wall, her face calm, but inside, she's a live wire. The audio of Cassie bragging about faking her resume, the professor's name she slandered, the proof of her violence. It's all out there now, a fuse she lit, and it's burning. Cassie's gaze snaps to Lila, her eyes narrowing to slits. "You," she hisses, stepping closer, her finger jabbing like a blade. "You did this, didn't you?" Lila meets her stare, her voice low, steady. Truth hurts, doesn't it? The words cut, and Cassie flinches, her face twisting. Ellen spins toward Lila, her mouth agape. "Lila, you wouldn't," she says. But it's a desperate hope, not a fact. Lila tilts her head, unflinching. "I did," she says, and the admission is a weight lifting, a chain breaking. The room feels smaller, the air thick with years of unspoken betrayals. Cassie lunges, her hands clawing for Lila's sweater, but Lila's faster, stepping back, her phone already out. 911, a tap away. "Back off," she warns, her voice sharp, unshaken. "I've got proof you're dead. Your lies, my bruises. One move, and I call." Cassie freezes, her chest heaving, rage battling panic. Ellen grabs Cassie's arm, pulling her back, but her eyes bore into Lila, searching for the daughter she thought she knew. "You're ruining us," Ellen cries, her voice cracking. But Lila shakes her head, her resolve iron. "You ruined me," she says. "Every time you let her hurt me. Every time you lied for her." Ron shuffles in from the living room, his shoulders slumped, his silence deafening. "Lila." "Stop," he mutters, barely looking up. "She's family." The word stings, but Lila's done begging for his care. She pulls an envelope from her pocket, a bank statement for the savings account her grandmother left, the one Ellen hid. She slaps it on the counter, the sound like a gunshot. "Grandma left me something," she says, her voice rising clear. "Not you, not Cassie. Me. And I'm done letting you steal it." Ellen snatches the paper, her hands shaking as she scans it, her face paling. Cassie laughs, a brittle, desperate sound. "You're pathetic," she spits, but her eyes flicker with fear, the cracks in her armor showing. Lila steps forward, her voice a quiet storm. "I'm not the one who's been lying. You stole my money, my name. You thought you'd walk away clean, but I see you now." Cassie charges again, her scream ragged, but Lila dodges and Cassie stumbles, knocking over a chair. Ellen shrieks, "Enough!" But Lila's already dialing. "Police," she says into the phone, her voice calm, final. The sirens wail in the distance, growing louder, matching the panic in Cassie's eyes. "You'll regret this," Cassie yells, but Lila just looks at her, steady, unbowed. "I regret staying quiet," she says. "Not this." The room pulses with chaos. Ellen sobbing, Ron staring at the floor, Cassie's bravado crumbling. Lila stands tall, the girl who once hid now a force, her truth a blade that's finally drawn blood. The storm outside breaks, rain lashing the windows. But inside, Lila is the one who's changed the weather. The sirens fade into the Seattle night, leaving a hollow quiet in the apartment. Lila Bennett stands in the living room, her phone still warm from the call to the police. Cassie's gone, escorted out with a stern warning, her screams echoing like a bad dream. Ellen slumps on the couch, the bank statement proof of Grandma's savings account crumpled in her hands. Her eyes red and distant. Ron lingers by the doorway, his silence a heavy shadow. His muttered, "This is too much," barely audible. Lila's hip aches, a dull reminder of Cassie's violence, but her heart feels lighter, like a knot finally loosened. She's 23, and for the first time, she's holding the reins. Ellen looks up, her voice brittle. "Lila, we're family. You can't just throw us out." Lila's heard that word family used to guilt her too many times. She shakes her head, her tone firm. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't steal. You've got time to figure it out. Use it. Ellen's tears fall, but Lila doesn't waver. She's done being their anchor. Ron shifts, his eyes on the floor. "You're being cruel," he says. But Lila cuts him off, her voice steady. "Cruel was watching me bleed and saying nothing. This is me choosing me." The words land hard, and Ron retreats, his shoulders sagging. Lila moves fast in the days that follow, her resolve a quiet fire. She meets Emily Chen, her pro bono lawyer, in a cluttered downtown office that smells of ink and determination. Emily spreads out documents, bank records, fraud reports, the photo of Lila's bruise. "We're freezing that credit card," Emily says, her pen tapping the table. "Cassie's debt isn't yours." Lila signs the forms, her hand steady, each stroke erasing a piece of Cassie's hold. The $4,000 fraud begins to unravel. The bank flagging Cassie's name, not Lila's. It's not freedom yet, but it's a start, a crack in the wall. The savings account is next. Lila visits the bank, clutching her grandmother's letter, its words a lifeline. The teller, a kind woman with gray streaks in her hair, confirms the account $2,000 untouched. Hers. Lila's throat tightens, not from sadness, but from possibility. She uses a chunk to buy paint and a secondhand bookshelf, turning her cramped bedroom into a sanctuary. She paints the walls a soft gray, covering years of scuffs and secrets. Cassie's old room, once a shrine to her chaos, becomes a storage space for Lila's art supplies, canvases, brushes, a future. She hangs a new sketch, a figure with roots now blooming into flames, fierce and unapologetic. The act feels like a vow, a reclaiming of space and self. Ellen and Ron pack in silence, their resentment a sour note in the air. Cassie sends texts, a mix of fake apologies and sharp threats. "You're dead to me," one reads, but Lila deletes it, her fingers calm. She's not here to fix Cassie's mess. Aunt Clara calls, her voice warm through the phone. "You're doing what your grandma wanted," she says, standing tall. Lila nods, her eyes stinging. But she's not crying for what's lost. She's grieving the girl she used to be, the one who thought she deserved the pain. As the deadline looms, Ellen and Ron move to a relative's place in Renton, their departure a quiet surrender. Cassie crashes with a friend, her tech dreams dimmed, her name whispered as a warning in Seattle's startup scene. Lila locks the apartment door behind them, the click loud in the stillness. She walks to the window, the city's lights pulsing below, and feels a shift, not just power but peace. The debt is clearing, the savings are hers, and the apartment, though small, is a canvas for her life. She picks up a paintbrush, dipping it in blue, and starts a new drawing not of pain, but of a horizon, wide and open. The girl who hid is gone. Lila's here now, building, unbroken. The Seattle rain has softened to a drizzle, mist curling around the windows of Lila Bennett's apartment. Now a haven of soft gray walls and scattered art supplies, Lila, 23, stands in her makeshift studio, once Cassie's room. Her hands dusted with charcoal from a new sketch, a figure woven from flames, its edges sharp yet hopeful. The ache in her hip has faded to a whisper, but the scars of her family's betrayal linger, not on her skin, but in the quiet moments before sleep. Yet something new grows in her, a steadiness, like a tree finding root after a storm. She's not whole, not yet, but she's building, piece by careful piece. Lila returns to the University of Washington, her art scholarship, a lifeline she'd nearly forgotten. The campus hums with life students rushing past brick buildings, the air sharp with autumn leaves. In her studio class, she unrolls a canvas, its surface alive with jagged lines and bold reds, a map of her pain and defiance. Her professor, a woman with silver-streaked hair, studies it, her eyes narrowing. "This has soul," she says, tapping the frame. "Show us more." Lila nods, her chest tight with something like pride. She paints late into the night, her brush carving stories of survival, cracked stone, burning roots, skies that refuse to break. Her classmates linger by her easel, their whispers a quiet validation, not of her suffering, but of her strength. On a whim, Lila posts a painting online, a silhouette rising from shadows, captioned, "For anyone who's ever been unseen." She wakes to hundreds of likes, then thousands, her inbox flooded with messages. "This is me." One reads, "Thank you for making me feel less alone." Lila stares at the screen, her throat tight. She starts sharing more. Each post a thread in a growing tapestry, chakra rise from roots, a hashtag that catches fire. Strangers share their own stories of abuse, of reclaiming their lives. And Lila responds, her words clumsy but earnest. A local art collective in Fremont notices, inviting her to a small show. She hesitates, her old doubts creeping in, but then thinks of her grandmother's letter, its promise of safety. "Yes," she says, her voice firm, and it feels like stepping into light. The show is intimate, a warehouse space with exposed beams and warm lights. Lila's paintings glow on the walls, drawing murmurs from the crowd. She wears a thrift store blazer and her grandmother's ring, its weight a reminder of her roots. When a curator asks her to speak, Lila steps forward, her hands steady. "Art gave me a voice." She says, her words clear. "It's how I found myself again." The applause is soft, heartfelt, and a young artist approaches after, clutching a notebook. "Your work, it's helping me heal," she says. Lila smiles, her heart full, not with triumph, but with connection. Life isn't perfect. Lila still jumps at loud noises, still dreams of Cassie's glare. Her barista shifts at Pike Place are grueling, but her art sales small prints. A few commissions ease the strain. She meets Jake, her old boyfriend, at a market stall, his face sheepish as he mumbles an apology for believing Cassie's lies. "I messed up," he says, scuffing his shoe. Lila sips her coffee, her gaze calm. "We both did," she replies, but she walks away, choosing herself over nostalgia. Her new family is Aunt Clara, who sends care packages of tea and encouragement, Mia, an art student who shares her paints and laughter, and the online community that grows with every post. Lila's learning to forgive, not Cassie, not Ellen or Ron, but the girl she was, the one who stayed silent. She paints through the doubts, each stroke a step toward peace. Cassie's name fades from Seattle's tech scene, her lies a quiet warning. Lila doesn't dwell on it. She's too busy growing. In her studio, she starts a new canvas, a self-portrait flames and roots entwined, a woman who's learning to stand tall. The rain outside hums, a song of renewal. And Lila knows she's not done healing, but she's on her way. The Seattle skyline glimmers through the gallery's wide windows, a mosaic of lights against a velvet dusk. Lila Bennett, 23, stands in the heart of a Fremont art show, her paintings glowing on the exposed brick walls, canvases of fire and roots, of a woman carved from her own defiance. She wears a simple navy dress, her grandmother's ring catching the light, a quiet tether to the strength she's claimed. The crowd, a blend of artists and curious locals, murmurs around her work, their faces lit with recognition. Lila steps to a small podium, her hand steady, her voice clear. "These paintings are my story," she says, her words carrying over the soft hum of voices. "They're for anyone who's ever had to fight to be seen." The applause is warm, like a heartbeat, and Lila's smile is small but real. Not for the crowd, but for the girl she's fought to become. A year has passed since the apartment showdown, since Cassie's lies unraveled and Ellen's excuses fell silent. Cassie drifts now, a shadow in Seattle's underbelly, piecing together odd jobs. Her tech dreams faded like old ink. Ellen and Ron, tucked away in Renton, send occasional texts, guilt disguised as concern, but Lila lets them go unanswered. Her apartment, once a battleground, is a sanctuary, its gray walls lined with sketches, its air free of tension, the $4,000 debt. Cassie's last theft is gone, erased by Emily Chen's legal work, leaving Lila's name clean, her future hers. Lila's life is a canvas, still in progress. Her University of Washington classes fuel her art, her professors pushing her to dig deeper. Her Dex Rise from Roots movement thrives online, a beacon for survivors, its comments a chorus of shared healing. A local paper features her show, calling her a voice for the unseen, and Lila reads it, her chest tight with something new pride, not for fame, but for impact. She's not perfect, doubts still creep in. Memories of Cassie's cruelty flaring at odd hours. But she paints through them, each stroke a choice to keep going. At the show's end, a teenager approaches, clutching a sketch. "Your art. It's why I spoke up," she says, her voice shaky. Lila nods, her eyes soft. "You're stronger than you know," she replies, and the words are for both of them. Alone, later. Lila starts a new painting, a woman, flames fading into stars, rooted yet boundless. It's her, now, and it's enough. Lessons linger in her work. Set boundaries, say no to those who wound you, blood or not. Keep proof. Records can be your armor. Find your tribe people who see you, who stay, create your way out art, words, Anything that turns pain into power, know your value. You are enough, no matter who says otherwise. Lila lives these truths, etched in her bones. She closes her sketchbook, the city humming outside, and whispers, "You made it. The stars above Seattle shine." And Lila does too.